guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're making Jerry from Tom and Jerry. So for Jerry's body, I'm going to be using this Craft Smart Value. The color is curry, and the size of the ball is 7 ounces, but you will not have to get anywhere close to that. We're probably going to use about a third. For his belly and his muzzle, we're going to be using this Loops and Threads Impeccable. The color is Soft Taupe, and again, we're only going to be using about a third of this 4.5 ounce ball. And for the pink ears, we're just using some scrap yarn that I've got. I have no idea what kind of yarn it is or even the color. It's just pink. So that's what we're going to use for the ears, and then black for the whiskers, and then some felt for the eyes and for the tongue. Let's jump right into this. So most of my yarn calls for a 5mm and a 5.5mm, but because this is being built in amigurumi, I'm going to be using my 4.5. It is a G7 hook. So we're going to start in chapter 1. We're going to do ears, arms, legs. We're going to sew the legs together to make the body, just like we did for Tom. So, let's start with the arms. So get your curry color, or whatever color you're using, and make a magic ring of 6 single crochets. So because this is going to be built in amigurumi, we're not slip stitching, we're not chaining 2. We do use a stitch marker though. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch. So again, no slip stitching or chaining. We jump right into the stitch. Now after your first stitch, that's where the marker goes, and then stitch number 2 can go into that same space. You're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a total of 12 stitches. For the next 6 rounds, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches. Now if you want to pull your middle tight, you can weave in if you want. You can do a knot like I'm going to do. You can sew it in. You can do whatever you're comfortable doing. I'm just going to make a knot. And for the next 6 rows, I'm going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches. So, I will see you on the other side. So that is my 6 rows. This is what you should have. So our next round we're going to do a decrease, and then we're just going to do straight rows again. So we're going to start off with a SC2 tug, so that's a single crochet, 2 together. So I'm going to do an invisible decrease. So that's done in the front loops only. Then I'm going to do 4 single crochets. Then I'm going to do another decrease, so front loop, yoink, pop around, front loop, yarn over, finish the stitch, and then another 4 single crochets. So this is the hand, that's the wrist we just made, and now we're going to do 10 rows of 1 single crochet in each of these 10 stitches, and that's going to be the arm. So stuff as you go. So that's it. This is what you should have. We can fasten off. You only need a little sewing tail to sew it to the body because this is all built in one piece. So I took another small piece of yarn to make the thumb. So I fastened off on this side, which means that's where I'm going to be sewing it to the body, which means the thumb needs to be right here on the side. So I just went in, oh, I got stuffing in there, and I just went around a few hundred times. You can go over the course of 2 stitches to make a, thicker thumb. Bigger thumb. I just do X's. So once you got a little bit of a bubble like that on your side, then you can fasten off, and that's your thumb. So just remember, if you're sewn on like this, the thumb needs to be pointing out from the body. So you don't really need to weave very far because it's not that big of a deal. I tried to do hands and everything, and I just thought it looked stupid, so that's why I just chose to do this. But you can do whatever you want since it's your project. There. That's my little hand. So, we're setting him aside. I'll put the patterns for everything up at the end of everything instead of now. And then we can move on. We'll do the ears next, not the legs, because we'll do the legs last, just because the second leg you can't fasten off of. So I think doing everything first and leaving the legs till the very end is probably a good idea. So we'll get the ears done, and they're pretty short and sweet. We start with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Everything's kind of short and sweet on this guy. He's just a little tiny gaffer. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. This will bring it up to 18 stitches. That's 1 single crochet, so your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring it up to 24 stitches. That's number 1, that's number 2, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring you up to 30 stitches, and that's about as far as we're going. So this is what you should have. And I know it seems nice and flat, and you're going, it's an ear, it can't be like that. You're right. But when we make the pink part and we sew it on, the pink part helps kind of shape it. So this one gets the sewing tail, the pink part does not get the sewing tail. So yes, right now it is nice and flat, but it will not always be nice and flat. So this part, I just pulled it through just to make it look better. That's what gets sewn to the head. So the difference, because we work in a spiral, isn't going to be a huge difference. So the pink part, so you're going to start with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. Now my pink is much thicker than my 4 weight that I just used for my ear. This is thicker, so it's going to help shape. So if whatever pink you're using, just make sure it's thicker than this, and it'll help kind of concave it a little bit. So 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around gives you 12 stitches. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochets and an increase. And this brings you up to 18 stitches. 1 single crochet with your marker, and then the next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. Your next round, your last round, is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase, and this brings you up to 24. So 6 stitches less than our ear. That's 2 single crochets, and then your next stitch gets the increase. So that is it. You can fasten off and then sew this to the inside of the ear. So I just used the front loops of all my stitches when I sewed. So I'm going through the whole stitch, the pink stitch, and I'm using just the front loops of the other. Now you can't really go stitch for stitch because the stitches won't line up. There's more curry stitches than there are pink stitches. So now it's kind of concaved a little bit. So again, we'll make our second ear after I put the patterns up for the end of the chapter. Now we'll move on to legs. So we start the legs off with a chain because we make them making little feet. So we're going to chain 8. I want you to do 6 single crochets back up, but mark your first stitch so that you can make sure you're keeping up with me, because we do work in the round. That is my 6th single crochet. You should have 1 stitch left, and in that stitch you're going to put 4 single crochets. So you're going to notice that this is going to want to work its way around, and we're just going to kind of let it do its little curvy thingy, and we're going to follow it. That's what working in the round is, working and then on the other side of this chain. That's what that means. So make sure you pull your slip knot closed. I'm going to weave in my tail, but whatever you're comfortable with. Right next to this slip knot is a stitch. You got to make sure you get into that stitch, and we're going to do 5 single crochets. So now you're working on the back end of your chain that you first initially made. So it's my 5 single crochets, and in this last stitch you're going to put 2 single crochets, so that'll match the other side. Sort of, kind of. I'm going to cut this long thing off because I did weave it in. If you didn't weave yours in, I mean, it doesn't really matter, it's just going to be on the inside. I just don't want it to bother me, so that's what you should have. And it should look like a rib cage, like that, if you hit the stitches you were supposed to hit all the way back up. For round number 2, sorry, a stitch marker in my mouth. You're going to do 4 single crochets. With the marker, that's number 1. That's 4 single crochets. Then I want you to do 2 half doubles. Now in the top 4 stitches, I want you to put 2 double crochets in each of them. And now I want you to do 2 half doubles. And 5 single crochets. So that's what you should have. Your next round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each of these 21 stitches. So that's my 21 stitches, and this little boat deal is what it should look like. So for your next round, we're going to start off with 7 single crochets. That's my 7th single crochet. And now I'm going to do 2 single crochet decrease 2 times. That's 2 single crochets, and then my decrease, that's 1 time. Two single crochet decrease 2 times. And now 6 single crochets back to your marker. Have a total of 19 stitches. Your next round is going to be 5 single crochets to start. That's number 1 with the marker. This is my 5th single crochet. And now I'm going to do 2 single crochet decrease 3 times. That's 2 single crochets, and my decrease, that's 1 time. That's 2 single crochet, and then my decrease 2 times. 2 single crochet decrease 3 times. And then 2 single crochets to my marker leaves me with 16 stitches. Your next round, we're going to start off with 8 single crochets. This is our last decrease round. So don't forget, that's number 1. That's 8 single crochets. Then I want you to SC2 tog, which means single crochet these next 2 together. So just do a decrease, and then you're going to have 6 single crochets back to your marker. And that's your little foot. So for the next 8 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 15 stitches. So that's my 8 rows. That's what you should have, and we can fasten off. I'm not doing any tapering in or anything with this guy. So this one you can fasten off of with a little tiny sewing tail to sew it to the other leg. But the other leg you cannot fasten off of. So when I leave you here for the end of the chapter, you can when I put the patterns up, the leg will be the last one that I put up. So just make sure you're going to be off to the side here, because you're going to have to sew it to the other leg. the leg will be the last pattern I put up, because that's the last one that you should be doing, because you cannot fasten off of it, and I will make sure I put that in my pattern when I put it up on the screen. So this is going to be the end of chapter 1, and I'll meet you back here for chapter 2, and we'll start sewing or crocheting this guy all together, and do his face, do his tail probably in chapter 3. So it's be 3 chapters. It'll be all in the same video. If you need to find the chapters in the description box below, you just have to click on that number and it'll take you right to it. So I'll see you in chapter 2. Hi guys, welcome back to chapter 2. So I've got all my body parts done. So we're gonna start making this guy's body. And one leg should still be attached to your ball of yarn. So I'm gonna take my other leg and I'm gonna sew it to the one that's attached to the yarn. So I only used 3 stitches the last time I did this, so I'm only going to use 3 stitches this time. So once you're sewn together, your first round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So I had 24 stitches, so we're going to make sure that we have 24 stitches again for this doll. So that's my 24 stitches. I didn't use any sew spas. I just used my stitches from my legs. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. And the reason why we do that jump is because I just wanted a small increase. So 3 single crochet increase will give you 30 stitches. That's number 1. That's 3 single crochets, and then your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring you up to 36 stitches. That's number 1. That's 4 single crochets, so your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. So this is what you should have. You should have 36 stitches. So for the next 10 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 36 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So that's my 10 rows. I started to stuff it already. Made sure my legs in here were nicely stuffed. And we're gonna decrease before we sew the arms on, but we're right about that point. So your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease. This brings you down to 30 stitches. That is my 4 single crochets, the marker being number 1. So I'm going to do invisible decreases. So front loop, front loop. So you should have 30 stitches, like I said. And I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 30 stitches, and make sure that you stuff this. When I meet you back, we're going to sew the arms on. So we're going to sew arms on now. So I'm fully stuffed. I'm going to have to move this because I think it's going to be in the way of my arms. So these little thumbs that we sewed on need to point out. Yeah, I'm going to have to move my marker because that's kind of in the way. So I'm just going to move it, say 3 stitches. So that'll be my first stitch that's marked when I start my next row. So your thumbs need to be pointing out, so this has to go on this side. So when I initially did this, I said I used 4 stitches. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet, and I want you to get 42 stitches. My marker is my number 1, I guess I just moved it. So I got 42 stitches using every single sew spot that I had. So your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease. So that's going to bring our arms up, and we're going to be able to create shoulders. That's number 1. That's 4 single crochets and then your decrease. This is going to bring it down to 35 stitches. And repeat. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease, and this will bring you down to 28 stitches. That's number 1. That is 3 single crochets and then your decrease. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease, and this will bring you down to 21 stitches. So let's get some of our arms stuffed. Not a whole lot in here, but we're gonna need to put some in here. I don't want him to look like a football player though. So we build the head on, we're not building the head separately, we build the head on. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochets and a decrease, and this will bring you down to 14 stitches. So that's as small as we are going with the body. I'm just going to put a little bit more stuffing in there. We're going to build the head. Start building the head next. Too much. I don't want his arms sticking out. So we're going to start the head. We're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch. So we have 14 stitches now. We'll have 28 when we're done. Alrighty, last stitch. So you should have 28 stitches. I think I need more stuffing in my arm. Anyway, your next round is going to be 1 single crochets and an increase. We're only doing this one increase. And this will bring you up to 42 stitches. That's 1 single crochet, and then the next stitch gets your increase of 2 single crochets. And repeat. So this is what you should have. Should have 42 stitches. So for the next 8 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 42 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So, that's my 8 rows. That's what you should have. So we're going to start decreasing now. And we're going to start with a 4 single crochet decrease. And this will bring you down to 35 stitches. That's number 1. That's 4 single crochets. And then your decrease, whichever one you choose to do. So you should have 35 stitches. Your next round, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 35 stitches. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. So we're not going to do any more 1 single crochet in between. We're just going to do decreases from here on out. So you might want to start stuffing it whenever you're comfortable. That's 3 single crochets, counting the markers, number 1. And your decrease, if I can get in there. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. This will bring you down to 21 stitches. That's number 1, 2, and then your decrease. Make sure you're getting that neck area nice and full when you stuff. We got some big ears to put on this guy, and you don't want his neck to be wobbly. So it's about how much you need to do. And your last round is going to be 1 single crochet and a decrease, bringing you back down to 14 stitches, and then we're going to cinch. So you can fasten off. You'll need a cinching and a weaving tail. So just make sure this part is filled properly. Sometimes I like to overfill just the top part here so it doesn't get all wrinkly. And I'm sewing the ears on to this top part, so I kind of want it to be nice and solidly full. But if you can see your stuffing through your guy, you've overfilled it. So we're gonna do front loop, back loop. So in your front loop, out your back loop to weave. In your front loop, out your front loop. Oh, in your front loop, out your front loop, not out your back loop. In your front loop, out your front loop of your next stitch. I'm sure you guys know how to weave, but if there's any newbies in the audience, in and out until you can't go anymore, and then pull. So I'm going to pop across to make my knot. And then pop across the other way. Oops, pulled too hard. To make my knot. And then I can weave. There we go. Now our little guy is done. Now we just gotta make him. Now we just gotta make him a Jerry. So this will be the end of the chapter. When we meet back, so you can sew your ears on, and they go pretty wide. So when we meet back, we'll meet back with our ears sewn on, and that way we can just jump right into the face and the belly, and then we'll be all done. So how about we do that? That'll be homework, so to speak. So your ears sewn on, and then I'll see you in the short chapter 3. Hi guys, welcome back to the final chapter. So we're going to start with his belly patch, and then we'll get his face done, and then we'll do his little tail, and then we're going to be good to go. So I've got my brown, this is the soft taupe that we discussed at the beginning of the video, and still use my 4.5. So we're going to make a chain 6, and we're going to do 5 single crochets back up. Chain 1, turn your work. In this very first stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. Then you're going to do 3 single crochets across, and then do 2 single crochets in that last stitch. That's how we're going to increase. So this last stitch loves to turn over. Just make sure you get through both those pieces. Chain 1, turn your work. I just want you to do 1 single crochet in each of these 7 stitches for this next row. Chain 1, turn your work. So we're going to increase again. So 2 single crochets in this first stitch, 5 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in your last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. I want you to just do 1 single crochet in each of these 9 stitches. For 10 rows. So that's my 10 rows. I've already chained 1. I'm going to turn my work. We're going to decrease. So SC2 tog, so decrease these first 2 stitches. Then you're going to do 5 single crochets. And you're going to decrease the last 2 stitches. So you'll see it written as SC2 tog, and that means single crochet 2 together. So chain 1, turn your work. So Jerry, I don't know if anyone's done Tom with me, but Jerry has the same belly patch as Tom, where it kind of arches like that. We're going to do 3 double crochets. We're going to come all the way down here. We're going to do a slip stitch. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets. So pull right up on this to extend it. And that'll leave you with these little arches, just like Tom has on his belly. And then we can fasten off with the sewing tail. So, sew this on. There we go. That's my chest patch, my belly patch. So, staying with the same brown, we're going to get our little muzzle done, this guy. So we're going to need a nose. I just use an eye, actually, from the kit. I just use an eye, but we're going to do the same thing, basically, as we did for Tom, because they look the same. So, I have a kit of eyes that's really hard to open every time I open it. That's the size, I'm pretty sure. And I can't tell you what the size is because I have no idea. This thing doesn't label anything. I don't know why they don't, but they don't. So, but that's my smallest guy. So I don't know what sizes they are. I'm going to say this is 6 and this is 10, but I don't know. Anyway, it's using the same brown. Get to our muzzle. So we're going to chain 7. This first stitch is going to get 2 single crochets, but after the first one, that's where I want you to put a marker, just so you can make sure you're staying in the same place I am. Put stitch number 2 in that same space, and then I want you to do 4 single crochets. This is my 4th single crochet. I have 1 stitch left, and I'm going to put 3 single crochets. So it wants to curve around. We're going to follow that curve, and we're going to work in the round. So on the other side of your slip knot, on the other side of your chain, starting in that first stitch, we're going to do 5 single crochets. So I'm going to cut this little piece off because I weaved it in with those 5 stitches. So round number 2, we're going to start in the same space with 2 single crochets. I almost stuck that in my mouth. Then you wouldn't be able to understand me. So again, after your first stitch, that's where this marker goes. And then stitch number 2 can go in that same space. And then I want you to do 6 single crochets across. This very top stitch, right at the very tippy top, I want you to put 2 single crochets in there. And then I want you to do 6 single crochets. For the next 3 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 16 stitches. So it wants to flip around, so you can just flip it this way if it's easier. So that's my 3 rows. This is what you should have. You can fasten off. You're going to need a sewing tail. So this gets stuffed, but we're going to do the same thing that we did with Tom. Before we stuff it, we kind of got to find the middle, which is difficult to find the middle of it. Mine is always going to be off center. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. So we do the bottom part, and then we can kind of sew them all on at the same time. You're going to start the bottom jaw with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your first round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch. And after the first stitch, that's when the marker gets put in there. Stitch number 2 can go in there, and 2 single crochets in each stitch around will give you 12 stitches. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring you up to 15 stitches. For your very last row, you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each of these stitches, and that's just to help it kind of curl around a bit. So. And you can fasten off. So we need enough just to whip stitch this shut and then sew it to the face. So, we're going to do the same thing with the red felt as we did with Tom. So we're going to put a little tongue in here. But first thing is first, we need to sew on this muzzle. We can worry about doing the black part after. So I'm going to stuff it a little bit. I may or may not shove more stuffing in there after. So it goes pretty low. You just need room for this mouth. That is it. This guy goes on arched like that. There we go. So, let's get a little bit of our black. So we'll do the eyebrows after. We'll get red felt and we'll glue in his little tongue. So that's just how I glued it in. So it doesn't really stick out. And it is noticeable, just not so much on camera. I don't know why. So let's do his tuft of hair and then we can do the eyebrows. I just don't want to be messing around with his head while my eyes are drying. So again, just wrap a few times around. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. Put my cap on my glue. And then you just take that, pull it through. And then again, same thing as Tom, if you did Tom with me. This yarn's a little bit harder to untwist. It's a little bit tighter. There. And you can give him a haircut. There's a little tuft of hair at the top. It's super cute. So, if you did Tom with me, then that's fabulous. If you didn't, we do felt eyes. Let's move him. So my first eyes, I'm going to show you. You see the yellow on them? That's because I used contact cement glue. Now, they're never coming off, but they also turned everything yellow. There we go. So, we can let this dry while we do the tail. And then that's it. We're going to be done. See, now he looks like Jerry. So, the whole entire tail is just this color. The color of the mouse. There's no other color to it. So, we're going to start with a magic ring of 12 single crochets. For the next 2 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches. So this doesn't have to be exactly tightly closed because that's the end that's getting sewn, mattress stitched to the bum. So it doesn't really matter whether it's tight or not, but to stop it from continuously opening, which it will because it's squishy, you just make a knot or 2, whatever you want. So when we mattress stitch, we're going to be using these stitches, not anything here, so it does not matter. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease. So for the next 2 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 10 stitches. So I'm just going to count to 20. So your next round is 3 single crochets and a decrease. This will bring you down to 8 stitches. So for the next 3 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 8 stitches. So that's my 24th stitch. So it's a lot faster than taking the stitch marker in and out for 8 rows, or 8 stitches, 8 stitches. So I just multiply and then I just do those counts. Your next decrease row is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. So you should have 6 stitches. So for the next 5 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. So I'm just going to count to 30. So that's my 30th stitch. We're not putting stuffing in this, by the way. So your last round is going to be 1 single crochets and a decrease, just because I want a point. So you're just going to do that twice. So that's 1 single crochet and a decrease. Do it one more time. And then it's really small. You only have 4 stitches. I'm going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 4 stitches, and then I'm going to fasten off. There we go, right down to the tip. So you can go in. It's squishy. Fasten off. So even though I'm at the tip, I'm going to get a long tail because I'm just going to scooch up to the top. I'm not going to get an extra piece of yarn. That's silly. So just pull that, and you're going to have this nice rat's tail. It's a mouse, I know, but... So instead of getting an extra piece of yarn, I'm just going to scooch my way up to the top. Just really got to make sure you don't pull it weird when you're sewing it on, because you don't want to scooch it up. So I'm just going to scooch up to here. I'm not touching that hole whatsoever. Now you can sew his tail as high as so he's even with the feet, or that it hangs down below. I'm going to let it hang a little bit just so it curves up like that, because I think that's fine. So like I said, I'm going to mattress stitch this, so at the end of the day you're not going to be able to see this hole. But you can do whatever your little heart desires. Go in here and make a knot. Just make sure you pull that knot right down close, so that when you weave, it should kind of suck that knot in a little bit. Anyway, so I'm just going to weave. I made a knot, so it's not that big of a deal. We need to get some black and do eyebrows. He looks surprised. Yeah, I might change this whole thing. Now we're done, Jerry. Zoom out here. Isn't he cute? Fix his ears. Thanks for joining me, guys. I will see you in the next video.